England fell, Britain snatched Nile, France took the West, Germany grabbed land like it passed the test. No language in common, just rule and divide. Fed us their flags, made us swallow our pride. They taught us to hate what we saw in the mirror. Now we pray to their gods just to feel clearer. Hey, we weren't even there. Split the bloodline. Sleep again. Hey, names not our own. Borders like chains. Borders like chains. Still today, we carry the pain. Who gave them the right? Response, say body. Who let them rewrite? Not our bodies told. Who drew the line? Through our souls. Colonial goals. What they stole, we'll reclaim whole. We are the story they tried to control. But memory's a drum and truth don't sleep. Our roots run deep where their cuts ran steep. Now we rise with fire in our name, burning their maps, reclaiming our flame. Burning their maps, reclaiming our flame. You carved us up. We rise again. One Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another ALKEBULAN Awakening series in collaboration with the data economist. This time, my sister Nduku is not here today. So we got our able brother from the data economist filling the gap. My name, as always, is Oladele Dosunmu. I'm the founder of the emerging ALKEBULAN. And for those who are followers and those who are new to the platform today, we're about decolonizing our minds and awakening our consciousness. Guys, it's about time that we African own everything that's about us. Enough of basically seeking proximity to the Urugu. And this is what we're about. We're about to basically decolonizing the mind and make us understand that we're more than able, we're more than capable of basically doing our own things for ourselves. Babajide. You're muted.
Yes, welcome everyone to today's podcast. I am the data economist, a technology consultant, data strategist, and commentator focused on how data, economics, and technology shape our society. Through the platform, we examine who creates value, what creates value, who owns it, and how Africa can build stronger digital and economic institutions. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, Ronald.
Hello, Ronald. You want to introduce yourself, please, my brother?
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear. You're good.
All right, fantastic.
Here. Okay. Can you hear us? I think we lost you there for a minute. I think just bear with us, guys. I think we lost connectivity. Just bear with us. Hello, Ronald. Just bear with us, guys. One minute. Let's try again. Hello, Ronald. Can you hear us?
Okay, I think it's gone now.
It's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. While we're waiting for Ronald to come back, today's topic is, as for those who have been looking at it, today's topic is about who owns Africa's intelligence. In the in the age of AI and what's it called, artificial intelligence, who owns Africa's intelligence? Obviously, we own our intelligence, but in terms of data, who controls it? So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. Because as you can see, African artificial intelligence is the in thing at the moment. Everybody's scrambling, they're building centers and everything all across the world, including Africa. But who harvests that data? Who collects that data? Do we own the data? Or are they still colonizing our data like they've done in the past with our resources and our human capital? So this is the question we're going to be asking Ronald today, because he's into AI, is into it basically. How do we? Yeah. So yeah, you can share the questions later on, guys. But so he is into that space. That's why we brought him on. So he's going to tell us exactly what's going on and how we can make that happen. So that's basically what today is all about. So just bear with us until we bring him back on. Babajide, want to say something?
Yes, I think just to buttress what you've just said, the key thing here is around data ownership. Who should be the custodian of Africa's data? Who should be the custodian of Nigeria's data? As one of the largest, in short, not one of the largest country in Africa with about 237 million people. You know, Nigeria should be able to custody its own data rather than allowing that leakage into foreign, without naming names, foreign data centers, because the value of that data, which is some of what we're going to be discussing today, is quite key to the development of Africa, you know, as a continent. I mean, every data set created by the hour that is not stored in a data center in Africa is a loss to the continent. You know, it is a loss of value to the continent. I think we've got Ronald back now. So we can.
Yeah, we got Ronald back.
Yeah.
Okay, Ronald, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this conversation.
That's okay.
Yes, no matter what.
It's gonna be hard no matter what. Don't worry about that, man. Okay, if you want to introduce yourself to the people who are watching, please let them know a little bit of your background and who you are before we go into the topic, please.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Ronald Ajiboye. I lead an organization called Bridgeport. As the CEO, we're based in California, so we are largely focused on we're serving as a bridge between opportunities back home here in Africa, with the people connecting us in the diaspora, you know. And then I'm also the founder of STEM Garage Africa, which is a grassroots movement taking technology to rural communities. Our intention and goal is to be 50 STEM garages, you know, across Africa by 2030. I'm also the co-chair for African Union PPP Forum. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. Okay, the topic for today is, like we said, who owns Africa's intelligence? The new scramble for Africa isn't about the oil, it's about data. That's the topic today. So, Ronald, if you want to take us through that topic, and then we can then break it down after that for us, if you don't mind, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. So, technology is a topic that I'm very passionate about, especially because that is what I've dedicated most of my on. So, I wrote some couple of things down at a point I would do without the write-up. But let me start with saying every empire has had a commodity. And every commodity has had an owner. The defining question of this century is whether Africa will own the commodity called intelligence or simply supply it. For more than about 5 centuries, we have exported values while importing dependency. The commodities have changed from people to gold, to rubber, to critical minerals. But the economic pattern has remained remarkably consistent. So Africa too often participated at the point of extraction, while others captured a large share of the value created after extraction. So artificial intelligence represents the next phase of its historical pattern. unlike previous revolution, and what I would like to do today is to stratify the revolutions we've come by and see if we can categorize, AI enslavement as another revolution. So AI is not powered primarily by oil or steel. It is powered by data, computation, human feedback, and knowledge. So every search, every transaction, every GPS, location, every language interaction, every hospital visit, every digital payment, every farming decision, and every social interaction contribute to teaching increasingly sophisticated machines. Africa is becoming one of the world's largest producers of raw intelligence, yet it remains one of the smallest owners of infrastructure, intellectual property, compute, cloud platforms, and capital that transform intelligence into long-term economic power. Now, the central question is, therefore, will Africa use artificial intelligence, or will Africa own a meaningful portion of the intelligence economy that AI is creating? Let me run on something real quick. Let's look at people that write books, that write articles. You know, in the same value chain, we have people that does the house, the press, the press media houses where they printing presses. On the same line, we have people that own the library, either digitally or physically, where the book is being sold, or the journal house. We also have other value chain in there. When this writer gets down to, if he's not making enough money, when it gets to like up to 100 years, he then realized that the only thing is that he owns the knowledge of the business, but some people own the business of the knowledge. Right. So we have the various ages. Africa's relationship with the global economy can broadly be understood through four major extraction areas. I want us to listen carefully. The first extraction is human capital. Millions of Africa were taken through transatlantic slaves. The asset was labor at that time. And then we have the second extraction, natural resources, gold, diamonds, rubber, copper, oil and gas, coltan, lithium. The industrialization of much of the modern world depended in part on resources extracted from Africa. Now we have the third extraction, knowledge and talent, brain drains, doctors, scientists, engineers. We have the data. And one of the reasons why I'm not going to be able to speak as much as I love numbers, or we speak to numbers, is my brother that is on board, because I know he's going to do justice to that. If we can find a way, a comparative analysis between my own qualitative data that I'm given and with your own quantitative data, and let's make sense out of it comparatively. Once I'm done. Then we have fourth extractions, digital intelligence. Unlike previous commodities, let's not forget, we talked about knowledge and talent as one of the first extractions, natural gas, natural resources, and then we'll talk about human capital. Now, the last one is digital intelligence. So unlike the previous commodities, data lives silently. Every interaction creates value. Unlike oil, data does not diminish after extraction. If you consume oil, you've used it, you burn it, right? But data doesn't. And data doesn't live tangibly. You don't see it when it leaves. So it becomes more valuable than when combined, analyzed, and reused. This makes AI fundamentally different from every industrial revolution before it, which is whatever name you want to categorize that, those things that have been extracted from us. A lesson history keeps teaching us is history teaches us something uncomfortable. The world's wealthiest economists really became wealthy simply because they possessed valuable resources. They became wealthy because they owned a system that transformed those resources into exponentially more valuable products. Britain did not become wealthy because he had cotton. He became wealthy because he owned the textile mills. Silicon Valley did not become valuable because it possessed the world's largest population. It became valuable because he owned the algorithm, the chips, the cloud infrastructure, and the intellectual property that transformed information into $1 trillion enterprise. Now, let's look into the African intelligence economy. Let me stay away from the book a little bit. We have about 1.2 billion in African population. We're estimating that in 2050, we're going to have about 2.5 billion. That's going to give us that every one person out of four youth are going to be Africa by 2050. If we have about between 60 to 65% of the total world unexplored minerals in Africa, don't forget we talked about resources. And yet, even after the extractions, we still retain about 65% of the total world unexplored minerals. Now, and then we retain about 30% of the total world uncultivated arable lands. And then now we are seeing that 1 out of every 4 by 2050 will be an African youth. If we understand the mathematics behind GDP, gross domestic product, we will say that the more the population is the most critical driver that drives the formulation of a GDP. So when there are more people, there is a bigger market. So there is a connection between population to the GDP growth. So now we have those people. It means that the entire world is heavily reliant on Africa for survival. From now, let's say, if not up to 40%. And that is huge. Now, out of the entire AI infrastructure built, we do not have one in Africa. We have less than 1% contribution to AI infrastructure across the world. Now, you have a TikTok account, you have Instagram, you have all of that. Congratulations. You successfully contributed to the global, AI database. And none of them is hosted in Africa. We have just 1% contribution. So the enslavement, because whoever has data now will control data. Data is the only field for AI. AI is a pattern, that we sort of automate to be able to tell us the uniqueness in the variation and the pattern. That's basically what it is. So it feeds on population. Because the credibility of any data set is heavily reliant on the population size and the randomness of it. So the more the population, the more randomization of the data. And who has the population again? Africa. So it's easy colonization. But it is not a game of the West versus Africa. Because they are not the ones saying we should not build infrastructures. We just like to consume. The narrative has to change. You cannot make a man understand something if his salary depends on not understanding it. Africa, largely in terms of mentality, is heavily built on not understanding what is right. I'm sorry. But we're about to shake some tables. But that's the reality. Let's not blame our not being productive right now. So if it has happened in the West, if we were colonized by the West for a very long time, we're intelligent and exposed enough to be able to change around things. Right in the country where I am currently, when you talk about expats, you're talking about a foreigner that probably has a better knowledge, So it is high time that we started to look things differently and start blaming. So I'm talking about the infrastructure. I cannot talk about an organization where I also train AI model. Most of the time, the work, it's an executive platform that I have to come on the executive level. And in most of my experience, it's been around Afrocentric, activities, engagement. Even as it saddens me that we're not hosting these on our own platform. But first, I'm doing it because I've got to make money for my family. And at the point in time, I started looking at it like, what? If that English is correct, patriotism, or you're being patriotic, right, is going to make you as a conventional African person not to eat. Trust an African guy. Because, we've suffered for too long. And the life is pretty short. So in the bit of we advocating for sovereignty when it comes to, owning our own infrastructure, we also should understand. I always say, don't boast of morality when you've not made enough money to fund your temptations. You come to Africa first and witness those things that those guys in the village are witnessing. And then let them get a slight opportunity to carry your entire town data to sell. They will. Feed a man first before you give him an idea of how he can make business. Let him at least understand that, oh, this is what it feels to be successful. So if I go further, I would say, why data is more valuable than oil? Oil powers machines. Data teaches machines. Oil is consumed once. Data creates value repeatedly. Oil depletes. Data compounds. Every additional data set improves an AI model, no matter how small. Every improvement attracts more users. More users generate more data. More data produces better systems. Better system attracts even more users. So let's look at the United States, what they've done. They have frontier AI research labs. They have China, manufacturing at scale. Everybody's taking that. European Union, they have regulations, industrial capability. There are some things we're doing in Africa as well. We just need to increase our speed more than that. India has digital, DPI models, digital public infrastructure, software talent. The Gulf states, they have sovereign capital, right? Compute investment. Most of the data centers are now coming down to even the Middle East right now. Africa, we have young population, linguistic diversity. I said to one person that the multicultural diversity of Africa is actually the strength it has. We just don't know. We have, in Nigeria alone, we have over 400 languages. Right. So the distinction is striking. Most advanced economies are building AI. Africa is largely helping to train AI. Now, the eating exports, and let's go into the library analogy that I said. Imagine spending your entire life writing books. Someone else is building the library. Another person owned the printing press. Another person owned the bookstores when you were selling. By retirement, you realize something profound. You created the knowledge. Someone else owned the business of knowledge. That is the difference between producing intelligence and owning intelligence, if that makes any sense. You can also look at it from the landlord, point of view, right? Somebody who owns the house and you that, So the question nobody is asking is, if an AI system becomes fluent in Yoruba, who owns that intelligence? If millions of African farmers unknowingly help train agricultural AI, who benefits when the system is commercialized? If traditional medicinal knowledge informs pharmaceutical AI, who owns the resulting value? Because some people own that knowledge. These are no longer philosophical questions. They are economic questions. And we must look at it economically. What's happening if nothing changes? Let's see. If Africa continues generating intelligence while remaining dependent on foreign-owned AI infrastructure, several long-term outcomes becomes increasingly plausible. One, economic. Limited participation in AI wealth creation, continued dependence on imported digital infrastructure, loss of high-value intellectual property, persistent trade imbalances in digital services. Now, strategic dependence on external AI systems for critical sectors, reduced influence over global AI governance, limited bargaining power in future digital trade negotiation. And trade negotiation now is becoming digital. No longer let's own this land. Almost all the old land has been acquired, right? So what are people using to trade? Of course, digital assets, right? African languages becoming digitally represented without African stewardship. Cultural narrative increasingly shaped by external platforms, reduced influence over how Africa is understood by future of AI systems. Intelligence is appreciating capital. Most commodities lose value after extraction. Oil is burned, coal disappears, timber is consumed, data behaves differently. It becomes more valuable every time it teaches another machine. Every interaction today may continue creating economic value years into the future, right? So that is what makes the intelligence economy fundamentally different from every economy before. So to close this, these are the opportunities we have. We should not attempt to replicate Silicon Valley. It should be built. It should build African comparative advantage, African language AI, agricultural intelligence, climate resilience, healthcare, education, and the likes. And the five strategic priorities that I came up with is African data sovereignty, treat data as national asset, African compute. Let's invest in regional cloud infrastructure, compute capacity. African research. You can't go into any of these space. It's an emerging space. We need to get a budget for R&D. So to strengthen universities, AI laboratories, innovation ecosystem on African challenges. African talent ownership. Let's move beyond exporting graduates, build companies, own patents. Then continental collaborations. An African Union has a lot of role to play to coordinate standard governance and digital markets across Africa. No single Africa country is likely to compete effectively in isolation. Together, Africa represents one of the largest potential digital markets in the world. The most dangerous form of colonization is the one mistaken for convenience. The greatest export from Africa may no longer live in ships, it lives silently through servers. When your greatest natural resources is your people, your greatest national security asset becomes their intelligence. History rarely announces a new form of extraction. It usually arrives disguised as progress. So you might think it's progress. It is difficult to persuade a man to question a system when its comfort depends on never understanding or questioning it. This is for our leaders. And if another nation understands our behavior better than our own institution do, our intelligence has already crossed the border. So Africa must stop measuring development by what it extracts and start measuring it by what it owns. So in conclusion, the greatest mistake African can make is believing the AI is merely another technology. It is not. It is a new economic operating system. Every previous industrial revolution rewarded those who own the machines. This one will increasingly reward those who own the intelligence that teaches the machine. For centuries, Africa has supplied the world with extraordinary value. The defining question of our generation is whether we will continue exporting value or begin owning the system. All right. So thank you so much. Will Africa remain one of the world's greatest producers of intelligence, or will it finally become one of its greatest owners? Thank you so much for your time and for listening to me, Brother Oladele.
Thank you, Ronald. Thanks for that opening salvo. Babajide, before you come in, I'm just gonna put it out there. So, as Ronald said, how are we gonna own? And this is basically one of the reasons why we bring these discussions aboard. How do we own? For so long, Africa has remained the extractive hub of everything. Now it's our thinking that's been extracted. So are we going to own it, or are we going to keep seeking proximity to those who are going to keep keeping us down? That's the question, because I ask that question all the time. That's basically why we're having this conversation today. So Babajide, if you want to come in, and then we'll get back to Ronald. Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay, you're good now. Go on.
Yes. So thanks, Ronald, for that overview. It was a very, very, how would I put it, very concise and real submission on the state of Nigeria, Africa, and its data landscape at the moment. Now, I want to add a little bit of context to some of the points that were raised in your summary. Now, just to give you a bit of background, quick background, I've been in the data space, I can comfortably say, since commercially, I'll say since 1995. Okay, actively in Nigeria from 1999. So when Obasanjo came to power in 1999, he had big dreams for Nigeria across different sectors, and we were all invited to come back to Nigeria. So a lot of us took that opportunity to go to Nigeria to see what we could do to push the commercial space in Nigeria, of which software and data was one of them. Now, if you probably go back into the history, you'd notice that in 1999, we didn't even have mobile phones yet. Is Ronald still with us?
It's fine. I just centered you, so it's good. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So The mobile phone industry hadn't even picked up then. We were, I think, using a technology called or known as CDMA at the time. Now, I can remember very, very, very clearly. Yeah, I'll just extract one of the projects that I was working on at the time, was to actually put down a data center in Nigeria circa 1999, 2000. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the journey that Nigeria has been on since 1999. Do you know what the company that I engaged with, yeah, to buy? So I had to, in London, I first had to get in touch with Intelsat, yeah, because Intelsat was the company that was delivering internet into Nigeria via satellite. So I then went to the company in Nigeria to find out how much data I could get, yeah, that I could then port into my own establishment, you know, as and when it's created. In 1999, the size of the download data was 256. 256. Do you know what 256 is? 256 KB is what Nigeria had in 1999, rather. Okay, so fast forward to, I think it was early to mid 2000s. I think Main One was able to then scale up, and by which time the mobile phone industry was sort of kind of developed and had started rolling out data services. Okay, so having that in mind, having that journey in mind, you can begin to see the journey, the individual journey, the individual data journey that organizations, government, and individuals would have been on since 1999. Okay, so just for context, it's taken almost the advent of social media circa 2010, 2015 for Nigerians and Africans to understand how the rest of the world worked. You get what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to put into perspective here is that people sometimes first need to understand what's happening elsewhere before they then decide to adopt it locally. And that's what's happened with Nigeria. Right? I've spent years till tomorrow trying to convince Nigerian government, for Nigerian government officials to stop using Gmail and Yahoo accounts. They're still using it. Are you with me? They're still using it in 2026. So you can see the huge task at hand. Okay, now another big question around the delivery of everything you've described is, does Nigeria, yeah, and African governments, do they have the resources to be able to deliver some of the requirements to make Africa or Nigeria able to manage its own data? Do we have the resources? Now, from a data economist perspective, we don't have the resources. And I'll give you an example. And I tell people this all the time. The current president of Nigeria released the latest, let's even go back to 2025, the 2025 budget, the country's budget, right? I looked at that budget. Just from looking at the budget, I knew there was nothing for you and I in that budget. And what does that mean? It means there's nothing for local businesses to thrive in that budget. That was when he came to power. So 2023, 2024. We're now in 2026. Look at the state of the economy. Are you understanding me? So first and foremost, there are no economic drivers. There are no capital expenditure drivers within the government's, and it's not just Nigeria, it's African budgets There's no capex within the budgets to drive what we're talking about. There's none. And if there's none, you're going to have to keep on going to people who don't have your interest at heart. They don't have your best interest at heart. And I don't mean that in a bad way, if you know what I mean. They care for their own profit objectives. And it's time for Africa to start to care for its own Ubuntu objectives. You know what I mean? You mentioned books. You mentioned books, right? Recently, I'm not sure if you saw it, it was in the news a couple of days ago about Anthropic buying all the books up and destroying them after they've copied them. So can you imagine can you imagine an AI company coming into Nigeria, buying up all of Chinua Achebe's books? Think about it. Chinua Achebe's books, how deep and profound they are to our culture, put them onto onto a large language model, then destroy them forever. What do you think is going to happen to someone who's trying to use that AI maybe 50 years down the line, and AI spits out incorrect or mismatched
interpretations?
Interpretations of that book. So these are the lessons that we need to pass on to our leadership. But I can tell you the starting point, which is where I always like to look at things from. We know, and please don't take this the wrong way. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of every single thing you've described. But I always want to start from the money point of view. Where is the government going to get the money from? Do the governments of Africa understand the problem enough to be able to create within the budget money to say, you know what, we're going to empower, because it's all, look, Africa hasn't arrived. Nigeria hasn't arrived. So if I were going to speak to the president of Nigeria or South Africa or any of the African presidents today, I would say, look at Ronald Ajiboye. This is what he wants to do.
Ajiboye,
Sorry, Ross, I beg your pardon. Ronald Ajiboye, yeah? This is what Ronald is looking to do. I would say within that community, I'm sure there's about, 10, 20, 30 of them. Budget about, $10 billion. Yeah? Share it amongst them however you see fit. But the one thing you must do is, yes, you monitor them 100%. But if for some reason they're not able to meet their objectives, and one or two of them fail whilst maybe 8 of them are able to progress, don't sanction them. Use it as a learning curve. Africa is only just starting. We need to have a few of these businesses that would try and test before they can get it right. Africa hasn't done that yet. Every business that is unable, every IT business, for instance, that is unable to move forward within that space today, it will be labeled. You get money from Silicon Valley, you're not able to progress. The next week or month, you're announcing, oh yeah, this company has failed, without understanding why it has failed, without understanding that the landscape was not right ab initio, i.e. from the very, very beginning, for that business to be able to thrive. Okay, so let me give you, let me give our audience, more perspective here. Okay, and I want to present these figures as context, not as conclusions. Yeah?
Right.
Now, Nigeria's population, as you said, is roughly about 237.5 million people. Across Africa, that equates to, the population is now around about 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion, yeah, roughly. Every day, this population generates financial, commercial, medical, agricultural, linguistic, educational, cultural, and behavioral data. Africa is therefore not short of people. It is not short of consumers. It is not short of workers, students, entrepreneurs, inventors, or potential technology creators. But population only becomes economic power when people possess the tools and institutions needed to transform their activity into productive and commercially valuable output. Now, the World Bank is, how would I put it? I have my reservations, but unfortunately for us,
my brother, you know what they're like. They're not for us. So let's just say as it is. They're not for us.
Unfortunately, they're the ones gathering the data that we use to do all these analysis at the moment. Unfortunately, yeah. According to the World Bank's 2025 estimates, Nigeria has a total labor force of approximately 116.6 million people. Okay. Now, compared to the United Kingdom that has 35.4 million, United States has 174.8 million. The European Union has approximately 221.7 million. So in total, Sub-Saharan Africa alone has a labor force of approximately 527.4 million people. Can you begin to picture the potential there? Nigeria's labor force is therefore more than 3 times the size of United Kingdom's. Okay? It is approximately 2/3 the size of the United States labor force, and Sub-Saharan Africa alone has more than 3 times the labor force of the United States and more than twice that of the European Union. The human scale clearly exists. The question is whether the human scale is supported by education, technology, capital, and institutions. Nigeria has achieved widespread mobile phone access. The 2021 Nigeria Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey reported that approximately 9 out of every 10 households owned a mobile phone, but only 9.4% of households owned a computer, right? World Bank data indicates that approximately 41% of Nigeria's population used the internet in 2024. These figures demonstrate substantial digital participation, right? But a smartphone and an internet connection do not necessarily provide the same productive capacity as a laptop, desktop, computer, research workstation, or access to advanced computing infrastructure, which is where AI is going, right? A smartphone can help someone communicate, consume information, access services, and participate in online markets. But advanced work in software engineering, data analytics, robotics, aerospace, scientific research, and artificial intelligence often requires more capable equipment. We must therefore ask whether Africa is connecting people mainly as consumers and data generators, like you've alluded to, or equipping them to become creators and owners. Now, we produced a simple cost scenario to illustrate the scale of the challenge. This is not an estimate of what Nigeria or Africa currently spends. It's an illustrative model, simple. So using a four-year cost of between 1,200, this is in pounds, by the way, yeah, okay. Which can be converted, yeah, and 1,700 for a mainstream productive computer and basic productivity software, equipping only 10% of Nigeria's labor force would mean providing workstations to approximately 11.7 million people at 1,700 per seat. Can Nigeria afford that? Can Africa afford that? We haven't even looked at 116 million people who make up the workforce of Nigeria. Yeah, that costs, that could cost between 14 billion pounds and almost 20 billion pounds over 4 years for Nigeria alone. Okay. Across sub-Saharan Africa, equipping only 10% of the labor force would mean providing workstations to approximately 52.7 million people. That could cost between 63 billion and almost 90 billion over 4 years. Those estimates do not include internet access, reliable electricity, backup power, maintenance, cybersecurity, cloud services, technical support, or digital training. None of that. Most conventional computers depend on processors, operating systems, productivity applications, and cloud platforms owned by companies outside Africa. So before an African worker begins producing value within the intelligence economy, somebody will usually pay for the hardware, the operating system, the software, cloud services, the connectivity, and increasingly access to artificial intelligence tools, which they've started charging for. How many Africans can even afford that? Which is the more reason why we need to create our own. These services create real value, but they also raise a question. How much of Africa's investment in digital participation builds African technological capability, and how much becomes revenue for intellectual property owners based elsewhere? So I'll stop here for now. And I think, yeah, these are the top line facts. When you look at Africa's population, labor force scale, limited access to productive computers, and the potential cost of equipping workers, what do these figures tell you? Does Africa possess an enormous competitive advantage, or does human scale mean very little unless it is matched by skills, productive technology, electricity, computing infrastructure, investment, and capable institutions? I yield the floor for you.
Okay, guys, I've listened to both of you. So it comes back to ownership. The fact that, Babajide, you've alluded to the fact that the governments, Africans own nothing. It's it's just like colonization 2.0 all over again. So we're about solutions. We're about the truth. How do we move forward?
Yes.
The fact that both of you have let it bear, the fact, and it saddens me as you both are talking. And this is why we have these conversations. So let's start with Ronald.
Yeah.
Me and you have had this conversation privately.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
So how do we as Africans build? Because what you both stated here is basically heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Sometimes I feel like crying.
Yeah.
I mean, his zone is even more.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That it's going to even be more scary when you start mentioning figures.
Yeah, because imagine it's
was
about the figures.
Yeah, it's
And
sad. Yeah, it's really, really sad. If I can just just top it up. I'm not joking. Yeah, when Tinubu released his first budget, it was a game changer for me, because and I looked at it from the perspective of, damn, it means that anybody that is planning to go and do anything from the abroad in Nigeria should just keep his money, should just hold on to his money. Unless you have someone in government that's going to give you that contract, that's promised to give you that contract, you're not going to get anything from government, because the government has not budgeted anything for any project development across healthcare, across IT. Look, if you can fact check me, yeah.
Wow.
When Tinubu came to power, he came to power in May 2023. There was a Davos, the Davos that we did a podcast on. That Davos for that year, right? The Minister for Digital for Nigeria, I keep forgetting his name now. I think Tijani. Yeah, he was so excited about the prospects. He kept on going on about what he was going to do with AI, etc., etc., etc. But hang on a minute, I looked at the budget. The budget is non-existent, because you cannot create an AI economy. You cannot create a digital economy without empowering the IT businesses. You have to deliberately, like I explained earlier, say, okay, we want to create 25 IT firms that are going to be Nigeria focused. If you want to do it by region, that's your business. I don't care. There's 6 geopolitical zones. If you want to do 6 per zone, it doesn't matter. But you must deliberately create the budget to empower these people. There's nothing like that in the budget. Till tomorrow, they are still fighting on, oh, they've padded the budget, they put this in the budget, they put that in the budget, scams going on here and there. So how do you want to own your data? How? So we keep talking about the cream on the top, whilst at the very foundation,
we're not doing the groundwork. We're
not doing the groundwork at all. Nothing can happen. I've been on it.
So,
if I had a a shekere in my hand, shaking it in 2023, saying, oh, by 2026, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. We'll be here today and I would have been right.
Yeah.
I would have been right.
Yeah, you are right, because like you said, Babajide, there's basically nothing put in place for this to happen. So basically, it keeps us back to where we started. Africa's just been, it's basically set up to be an extractive hub.
Yes.
For the rest of the world. And if we do not build our own capacity.
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Let me put the cream on the cake for you here.
Yeah, you keep coming up with creams, man.
Yes, further data to show you how bad the Nigerian and African situation is. I'm going to put this question out there. Do you know what the UK's National Health Service budget is? Please, let's even just we can even just Google it. Yeah, I'll pick the figure, the last figure that I found a few months ago. We can just do a quick search. Yeah, the NHS health budget, annual health budget, is about 168 billion pounds. Ronald,
wow.
Can you reconcile that? 168 billion pounds. Let's convert that to naira. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to compare, or anything. I'm just trying to tell you that the UK government is putting 168 billion annually, or let's say between 138 to 170 billion, because they do the budget annually depending on their requirements, right? Into just healthcare. Nigeria hasn't even in the budget, they haven't even said, okay, education, this is what they have the budgets, they have the standard budgets of recurring expenditure. Oh, we're going to pay teacher salaries, we're going to pay universities lecturer salaries, we're going to repair buildings, etc. They have all that. But they don't have anything to say, oh yeah, today we're going to create a knowledge academy in Obafemi Awolowo University. We're going to use it to empower 100 or 50 building firms. Yeah, we're going to create a research lab for the pharmacology department of University of Lagos, and 20 local pharmacology firms are going to benefit. There is nothing like that in Nigeria. I have personally had conversations with lecturers in university, Obafemi Awolowo University, and it's a sad, sad, sad story. I'll leave it there for now.
Ronald, come in, please. Come on in.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I know this is when it comes to having Pan-African conversation.
Yes.
Sometimes it gets really, really heated up. To be honest, I'm very passionate about it. My brother knows that, Oladele. This is something we stand for. This is something we believe in. This is something we live around. There were some things that you said, Babajide, that makes a whole lot of sense, And I put those figures down. Yeah, my big brother. When you mentioned 11.7 million population needs to at least be serviced, when it comes to like the AI ecosystem, getting trained, if we even want to get into the race. And that's at 1,700 per seat, which makes us 146, £1 million over 4 years for Nigeria alone.
Yes.
And then for Africa, we're looking at 14 billion rather. And for Africa, we're looking at between 60 billion to 90 billion over 4 years. We're talking in pounds.
Yes.
Now, here is where I want to come in.
Yes.
That is not a challenge for Africa at all. As a matter of fact, that's the smallest challenge. I did some research talking about how much, it was like I've done some couple of open research for just the benefit to populate it, knowledge bank.
Yeah.
One was queuing theory, looking at how much of money is being extracted from every passenger in Nigerian airports, considering the number of queues generated.
Yeah.
The second one was around the oil and gas, and that's the one I have interest in. How much money is lost from the, thefts from our oil and gas? Every resources that Africa needs to scale has been provided for Africa. Every country in the world that is manufacturer savvy, that is doing something great, has heavily relied or currently relying on Africa resources for stability purpose. Currently, I can tell you for fact, I've read it through back and back.
Yeah, that's a fact, my brother, man. That's
the money
it's a fact.
now. The money that we need. If
Yeah.
you're saying 63, 90 billion pounds, that's what the entire Africa needs to be able to have. If you're using 11.7 million population for Nigeria, it means you're considering about maybe around 5%
6 point.
of the
It's
total
it's
population. So
yeah, about 6 point something percent. I think.
about 6. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're looking at around 6 point something, depending on the number, the total population you're considering. So let's say you're considering around 6 point something. Now, meaning that you're also considering about 6 point something from the
Actually, no, it's
global Africa.
10% at 11.7 million people.
Okay.
Yeah. 10%, yeah.
Okay, 11%. Okay, yeah. So sorry, 10%.
And it's of the
You're
labor.
220 million.
And it's of no.
For
It's
the
of the
labor
labor force.
group.
Labor force. Remember,
Fantastic.
labor force, not the
Fantastic.
entire
For the labor
population.
force.
Yes.
Good. Now, for the labor force,
Yes.
my point is that you said it 90 billion pounds
Yes.
that is required for the entire Africa alone
Yes.
to have about 10 to 11% of the African labor force
Yes.
digitally savvy in AI and preparing them for the global, for posterity purpose.
Yes.
That money alone can be supported by the total amount of money that has been placed, that has been used on a subvention, which is subsidy, plus the amount that was lost through oil and gas sector alone.
Yeah.
Nigeria alone can fund that for the entire Africa.
I'm not disputing that.
Yeah,
That's the funny
I'm
thing.
just saying, like, look at some two corners where money
Yes.
came from. That
Yes.
has not been productive alone for only Nigeria, not the entire Africa
Yes.
now.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
So now, if we have now realized that God has given Africa the resources, to produce money that is enough to fund our infrastructure or whatever need we have, what is then the problem? So that's why, first of all, and I like the approach of the project management scope. You are looking at it from you're looking at it from the source code, preliminary framework, down to conceptual, down to the detail. Fantastic. So if we don't want to troubleshoot it, if money is not a problem, if resources is not a problem, what then is the problem? Are we saying that? Because it's very easy for us to say, oh, the xenophobia attack that is happening in South Africa, it was influenced by the West. Oh, it was influenced by the foreign media. What happens to people that are in Nigeria? Are we not the population? Look, population drives whatever it is.
Yeah.
I tell people, you want to be a pastor, we need to get involved.
Yes.
If there is a system we think is faulty, we can't keep just talking. We need to actually get involved, because money is not a problem.
Yes.
If you're in the government of Nigeria, I am not APC, I am not no party person. I'm not bothered about all of that.
Yeah.
But what I saw, this is not a political platform, so I didn't even want to talk about it, but just a quick example. When I saw the policies flying around at the preliminary stage of the entire conversation, I saw the entire policies flying around. I love a lot of policies around, focusing. But again, let's look at it. Look at Burkina Faso. There are certain steps you are going to take that that, okay, this person is not influenced by external or foreign intervention or whatever.
Yes.
Because it is totally counterproductive for the two parties.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you think we're not going to survive, we will.
Yes.
We will survive.
So, So, first of all, we need to understand where the problem is coming from.
Yep.
We need to first understand where the problem is coming from. It is not that Africa, look, somebody during when African Development Bank was being set up, a president of one particular country said, I will give you, was it $200 million or $2 billion? Let's put it there so that we don't borrow money from the foreign people. You're borrowing from the foreign people. They own your data. What does Africa has that it can use to fight? People are negotiating on the global platform, leveraging power that they have. Maybe their military, their defense, the resources they have. Can Africa be? The last time, Donald Trump said he's coming into Africa because some Christianity were being marginalized. It's not that Africa can speak up and say, this is our sovereign country, please don't come. You have to go through some sort of negotiation. What is the sovereignty Africa has? Now, the next generation of war, it's not going to be fought over physical. The next generation of war, or what is called pandemic, it might be some cyber pandemic, a whole lot of
Yes.
things.
Yes.
If the entire world, the APIs we are consuming, the model we are leveraging on, the base model that we are using, the training environment we are using to train our AI model, if every one of them gets shut down, it's like clicking the internet. Will Africa
Yes.
survive
Yeah.
economically?
Okay,
We don't have
guys.
any.
Can I just interject here?
Yes.
I love what both of you are saying here, but one thing and the work I've been doing is we can never ever use the Urugu solutions to free Africans. So what can Africa build that's African, that's going to sustain us? Because whatever they're doing, I know we can't get away from it because we're in the global world, like they always say. But this is Urugu solutions. You guys are both of you guys. You got the. I'm listening to you guys. You know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When is Africa gonna build its own? Must we always look to proximity to caucasity for anything we do? Because we need to decolonize. So we need to decolonize our solutions.
Yeah. So let me.
Because sorry, Babajide, we cannot compete with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to own something. That's the beginning of it. See,
that's it. So we need to, that's what I'm saying. We need to own.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go on.
We need to own.
So just to buttress.
Said something. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Said
Go on.
Earlier. And he said he was referring to, I think he's from Nigeria, of course, with the name.
Yeah.
So he's talking about a lot about Nigeria, but you understand. I also
as
like
the core country
in
African
African country.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about Africa as a whole.
Yeah, Africa as a whole. And he was saying he started his speech earlier on. I think he said in 1999. I like to pick data so that I can quote.
Yes.
When we had access to about 233 kilobytes.
256.
256 thereabout. Yeah. And
down,
later on, you can imagine an entire continent. We can only transact 256, meaning you can download
per connection.
Format.
Yes.
So data cannot even exist.
Exactly.
And as far back as that time, some people were already leveraging some AI. ChatGPT started training, they started building whatever they're building 13 years before they got there. Meaning they've been talking about data, AI. Yeah. They started building. So, and he now said, now, if we need to talk to our leaders, how would they even understand? Because the budget of the federal government of the country he mentioned did not even accommodate. And if you understand how the operational dynamics of how the government contract and everything works, if you're even pushing anything down, you can be very, very, positive. And then you say, oh, you want to create this one. But they will tell you it's not even accommodated in the budget in the first place.
Yeah.
And that brought me back to my popular saying that I started earlier with. Yeah. That you cannot make a man understand something if his salary depends on not understanding it. You can't tell a leader you have a better idea or we should go around this place when he's not even understanding how that is going to bring money. They believe in something different.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it is high time we started looking into the youth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying maybe, but there are other people that might also have informed. Leadership is all about having people you can leverage on their strength to come up with something substantial. You understand? Not talking about their weaknesses. One of the changes that happened during that I did not so much appreciate, yes, for example, in Nigeria, we agreed that we're going to remove subsidy. But the change management framework was faulty, I would say. Because the people on the lower supply chain, the lower bottom of the pyramid, they were suffering. We don't understand what, even I, as an executive, didn't understand how impactful subsidy would be to my organization. I had to call the CFO, please teach me, what is this effect going to be to us?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, now, when you asking what are we going to do first, we must understand what the problem is. And the problem is that most of our leaders, one, not just because they do not understand, because they have people that are very savvy around. Africa, we are very brilliant. But again, if the people that put the leaders there, the reason why they put him in there is for him not to understand emancipation, then how would he understand emancipation? I'm saying, if why is placed there, people that sponsored him. Recently, I was going to go for House of Rep for Nigeria, and I was going to get the form. Later, a friend of mine went, and we started going through the whole process together. we wanted to leave because we thought the party, a particular party we had signed up for, we won an election, but they are telling us that we cannot be declared as the winner. That certain person has to be declared. That's for the primary election. So if our leaders are placed there for them, for the purpose of not to understand the word emancipation, it will be difficult to make changes that will guide around emancipation, because the whole colonization right now is digital.
Yes.
Everything is all digital. This is the fourth revolution we're talking about. And the asset, right, for trading is digital. So I would say first, we need to break that jinx.
Yeah.
You see this advocacy you're doing, you might think it's not reaching people. Oladele is going far.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everything we're doing right now, we did not inherit Africa from our forefathers. We actually borrowed it from our unborn kids. So we're just people that are preserving it. So when we understand that purpose, that you know what, we are here to do our own part, preserve the world, to make it a better place. So we must consistently make sure we drive the right narrative. Let's have the right people be there. And for us that are here, let's not get there and change. And the only way you can do that is to build an infrastructure around you for truth, so that they can question you, ask you how far you're doing. Africa must understand and learn that as a president elected, if I'm unable to deliver and I do not understand the work anymore, I can easily resign. And it doesn't mean I failed. Resignation doesn't mean failure.
Yeah.
It's just because I love it too much that I do not understand how to solve the problem anymore. And I want other people that are knowledgeable to give it a try again. But here in Africa, if you go for a public position and you do not build 5 houses, the family sees you as a failure.
Yeah.
We are building for adoption. Let's stop building for adoption, all of our products.
Yeah.
Let's start building for emancipation.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just to sort of add to what you've said, you know, the African problem, and indirectly the Nigerian problem. And I'm always using Nigeria, not only because I'm from Nigeria, or I'm of Nigerian heritage, but also because Nigeria is the perfect case study for Africa. It has the largest population on the continent, and you know, when you do the numbers, it's quite reflective across Nigeria. So that's why I tend to use that country. Now, where do we start? Ronald, you've sort of enumerated the problems, right? And the unfortunate thing is, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to provide the necessary resources for people like you and I that are in data to be able to thrive if the crop of politicians that you've just described are still there. It's going to be very, very, very difficult. Look, 4 years. It's going to be 4 years. This president has been there 4 years. Nothing has been achieved. Yet he was on TV the other day, you know, speaking as though he was the Prime Minister of UK. Everybody is having fun. How? How is everybody having fun when doctors are still leaving? There are no hospitals. So we're talking about African intelligence at the moment. Our intelligence, I've spent a lot of my data time in the healthcare industry in the UK.
Just a comment. Just a comment, Babajide.
Yes.
Like, since we're speaking in the African context,
yes,
I would like that we start making the broader examples around Africa, especially.
Okay, that's fine.
You know,
that's
I know
fine.
African Union is there. The other person.
Yeah, that's fine.
Except you're just narrowing Nigeria down as a case study. Since we all
as a case study, it's a case study because let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I'm using that as a case study, because there are similarities across all the countries. In terms of why we're not able to move forward. Senegal has regulate. There's a lady that's always talking about Senegal and its over-regulation problems. The same thing in South Africa. I have Zimbabwean friends. It's the same thing in Zimbabwe. It's the same thing. What is happening in Nigeria is no different. But it's best for me to speak of it because like you, we've experienced it.
Yeah.
We've experienced it. You know, and if there are other, if there's any, I'm sure there are people from all across Africa, who are listening to us right now. Please chip in a comment in the in the
comment
let's,
section is on
let's,
fire.
let's see where you're listening or watching us from, so we can add better context. So, okay, let's go to South Africa. Yeah, let's go to South Africa right now. I prepared a report recently on one of our podcasts on police data. Yeah, it's even good that the South African police is presenting data that we can use, with an open data policy that I can play around with and present to users in a self-service report. How many other African countries do that? Are you understanding me? So there are some countries that are probably, doing what they need to do. But if we bring it back to basics, which is what some of our audience would be wishing for us to touch on, is how do we make this move without funding from abroad? It's time, because we have the resources. Okay.
Yep.
We have the resources, we have the intelligence. Like you've said, we have the intelligence, right? Even though majority of that intelligence is still fighting to belong to white establishments, to foreign establishments. So you're a doctor, you always want to go and work in some foreign establishment. You're a lawyer, you want to work with that. You have accountant, you want to work with KPMG and all those big companies. Not thinking, hang on a minute, how do we actually empower our own space? And to also allude to the fact that most of these African graduates too want to go and work outside the country because of what I also mentioned earlier. Our governments are not catering to their needs. Which is why I'm saying, if you empower 10 IT firms, if we know, okay, please, for context, when as contractors in the UK, yeah, IT contractors in the UK, just as the financial year is ending, majority of the IT space is gate kept by big multinationals, okay? Multinational companies who interface with government. So what happens is, the moment the government announces its budget in the various departments, what happens? All the contractors know, oh, thank God, we're going to be employed this year because the government has allocated X to cabinet office, X to NHS, X to education, X to that. There are contractors everywhere. But in Africa, there's nothing like that. So if you are not empowering a hospital, how is the hospital going to employ doctors or nurses or technicians and so on and so forth across all the various sectors of government? And that is the problem, right? We have money coming in. Majority of that money, the revenue that the government is generating, goes back out in form of loan repayments, in form of capital expenditure on foreign goods. There's no manufacturing base that we can rely on that would sustain, which is what Burkina Faso is trying to do now, that I'm so excited about. Yeah, he's creating a base that will stop them from buying international, from buying foreign, and that's what we need to start doing to be able to keep the money.
If you check what, if I could come, if you check, I'm looking at some interesting thing just before I forget on the comment section. And there's a lady, she said, I think she came from North Carolina. Yeah.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
And something struck me what she said. Simple.
Yes.
Build your own.
Yes.
And use it.
Yes.
Build yours and use it. There's something coming up in Nigeria and across Africa now, data sovereignty. We're saying that for every, when I checked the analysis back in the days when I was still doing a little bit close to having direct oversight on my CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Sometimes I would want to check, their algorithm and stuff. And I realized the amount of African people contributing to data on Facebook.
Yeah.
We are on Facebook more than any other part of
a lot.
Yes. Can you remember?
But guess what? China came up with WeChat, right? They own WeChat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they go like, I go to some other Middle East country and I can't use WhatsApp there, except
Yes.
you
Yeah.
have to download VPN.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is wrong with us?
Okay. Let me
Do you
give.
understand? So she
Oh, yeah.
said, you
Yeah.
build it
Carry on.
and use it. Yes. Yeah, please, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, look. Um, I've had numerous how would I put it encounters as an entrepreneur. Okay. Now, one of my encounters was I happened to be one of the, or I happened to have created one of the early mobile payment companies in 2004. Okay. But the difference between my creation and the others that followed was that it had a Pan-Africanist twist. Okay. It was, the focus was to make sure that it became the only interface for foreigners who want to buy from Africa or Nigeria, right? And vice versa. So if you want to, if people want to sell, if Nigerians or Africans wanted to sell to the West, it would be the only payment of choice. But guess what happened? As time progressed, obviously we couldn't raise the money that we needed at the time because nobody even could even in 2004, nobody could even understand what was coming. There were no smartphones at the time. And we had created this solution that you could even do payment transactions on your mobile phone.
Do you know Brazil has that? Babajide? Brazil has something like that.
Oh yeah. As in from 2004, are you talking about now?
But now they have their own.
Their own, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. So that's what I was trying to create from a Pan-Africanist view, right? But what then happened was, as time progressed, these young tech kids in Africa became exposed to the accelerator space in Silicon Valley, not understanding how Silicon Valley works, and that was how as far as I'm concerned, that's how the payment space in Nigeria got taken. It's been taken now. If my solution was designed not to have any interface with Visa or MasterCard, why?
But the question is going to be,
yeah, the question is going to be
interchangeability.
No, interchangeability will happen. There's going to be an interface. There will be an interface. Oh, yeah.
Because for business
there will
people,
be an interface. Yeah.
For business people, our priority is different. That's what I was asking it. Are you bidding for patriotism or you're bidding for scaling?
Yeah.
You understand? So perhaps, and that's what I started earlier on, that I've got family to feed. I've got things to do.
Yes.
We all understand that a simple way for you to scale, if you're building, you're in the fintech space, let me build a payment integration platform or a gateway cross-border integration platform.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing the entire cross-border, I know for my numbers, I rather want to do things with the likes of maybe PayPal. I want to do things with the likes of some other bigger fish. But if I said, let me just find something, because we don't even have any infrastructure built. We're trying to do something and to collect household information. I still have to leverage GPS, Google map to be able to get the coordinates.
Yeah.
And guess what? I wasn't paid for my contribution to Google Map. You also contributed. He contributed. Everybody contributed. It was an open source platform.
Yes.
But now they own one of the biggest data.
Yes. Can I
I'm
respond
saying that we understand that it's easier, and the blame even for the people in Africa right now. My one final point.
Yes.
I'm doing something I call it slum to tech. I want to do a pilot before I do the 36 states in Nigeria. Then I go to Africa.
Yeah.
60% of the population of Africans are in the rural sector. 40% are in the urban sector. 20% of infrastructural support by every government is the only thing that goes to the rural. And we're saying population is a critical driver to GDP. And the biggest population in Africa, it lies in the rural sector. They don't have infrastructure support, just 20. Yeah. How can they scale? It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going there to look for inventors that have created their own solution to match their own problems.
Mm.
What that means is that if there is a generator that is being produced in the rural sector, those core rural area, they were looking at how can they make a generator that is fueled by water, because water is available there.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford those other ones. It's the same way if we are building for product developers and founders around the African context. They just want to scale. They just want to leave poverty. And that's the reason why most of the African people are not thinking far ahead about patriotism, you know, being a custodian of the ALKEBULAN idea. Because a man that has not eaten, and then you are telling him to, most of the people are not living, they are surviving. And that's the reason why for those Gen Z, those guys that came around, they might think, I mean, you perhaps, you know, you're an uncommon rare breed. Yeah. But in other instances, that is not it. So you have to first make African people even understand. Okay. You can imagine a bunch of mentality for people to believe. I'm taking what is it called, to the rural sector. And I said, I will take 5 of you people from there, teach you guys how to make drones, and teach you guys how to fly drones. I'll take you down to the city so that my project in the rural sector, which is actually a social project that is funded by me, can be secured. Guess what? The mother is saying, for all of our kids that you'll be taking to teach how to make drones, I'm going to be taking from you about 350,000 naira, maybe like $200 to $300. Before I can teach your own kids to make life easier for you people, I just so that my project there that is meant for you, that is not funded by anybody, can also be secure there. Look at that mentality. So that's why I said mental emancipation. Yeah. We need to build for that, not even for adoption in the first place.
And that's basically why and Ronald, that's why we're here. Yeah. Babajide, you want to answer to that, please? Yes, we need to start running up.
I need to respond to what you just said. Yeah. So the patriotism and the fact that we have to eat dynamic, I understand that 100%. But what you also have to understand is that there has to be a starting point. Okay, when do we start? When do we start to say, look, the same, we want to start to own, or we want to start ownership the same way foreigners own their own things, right? I live in the UK. I've been to the US. I understand the market economy, and I understand ownership. I understand how they take custody of their own. Okay, yeah, you take custody of your own. I should be able to take custody of my own too. If you hear the conversations that happen in Parliament, and I'm sure in the Senate in the US, about how they want to do XYZ for their own people, for their own businesses, etc., we need to start to do the same for Africa. If you don't take that approach, then it creates problems, these problems that you've enumerated down the line. It cascades those problems down the line. It has to start from the top, you know, and that's what we are hoping to aspire. This is what I was hoping to inspire when I was on that mobile payment journey as far back as 2004, to go to the government and say, yes, make this tool, you know, the Nigerian African payment of choice. So if anybody wants to buy anything from Nigeria, they have to plug in their interface into this tool, and that way everybody benefits. But right now, you know, these foreign money platforms are so embedded in the system that they are sitting down with the president and having meetings. I mean, can Flutterwave come to the UK and sit down with the prime minister and have a meeting? That's colonization on a you know, large scale. And these are the things that we need to address. Yes, we have to eat, but we don't have to say because we have to eat, then we give all our resources away, like we've been doing with our gold and lithium and coal across all the countries. No, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And the one thing that Oladele and I know is that there's a way people relate to us in this country. We can't do certain things. because we're in this country. Yet you go to an African country and the entire landscape is yours. How?
You'll see.
Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't know what you have to say about what I've just said, Ronald. A bit of patriotism has to come into everything that we do. Else, the problems that you listed around the village, it will continue to happen. Because if you imagine that somebody from that village is empowered, can you imagine somebody that is from that village, he owns a business somewhere and is so wealthy that he doesn't even need to, the people in the village don't even have to worry about government, because the citizens from that village are already empowering the village without you even knowing. You're just adding extra value by helping out. And the mothers won't be saying, oh, go and bring 350,000 naira or $300. And that's what I'm talking about. Empowering a deliberate policy to enrich, if we want to use that word, enrich Africans. If any African leaders are listening to this, you need to deliberately create, multi-millionaires or billionaires, and obviously not subject for today's engagement. Start to work on your macroeconomic dynamics. Yeah, the African economies have been built as interest rate economies, but they are not. They are foreign exchange economies. Anytime there's a foreign exchange disparity, everything collapses. So we need to readdress that. Ronald. Okay,
let's round this up, guys. What I'd like to ask for both of you, as you both spoken, Babajide, we talk about Ubuntu, we talk about Yoruba, we talk about Agbajo Olafishoya.
Yes. Yes.
Our focus, as Ronald's mentioned, so is basically capitalism. We have to eat, we have to eat, we have to eat.
Yes.
And this is one of the biggest drivers of our problem, because we focus so much on that everybody has to hammer. Everybody has to have those.
Yes.
And not realizing that in this capitalist system, not everybody's going to make it, because it's not built for equity.
Yeah.
So my question to you guys is, how do we build community capacity to be able to solve these problems? Because the capitalist system that we all focusing on, that's driving everything, as Africa is today, it basically takes us away. It doesn't emancipate us, it keeps us down.
Yeah.
So how do we change our mindset to make things different? And we're running up now, guys.
Yeah. Ronald. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say let's be practical this time. We're talking about Africa. We've been able to identify the problem. Let's agree on the problem, and then let's be practical so that we can take something home. One of the problems we've unanimously agreed is that we have a fundamental problem of mentality, education. And that's why I think Daniel Addo, or let me confirm the name.
Addo Brown.
Yeah, Daniel Addo Brown.
Yes.
No, sorry. There is another person, George Brown. George.
Okay.
And George said, that I think the fundamental problem of Africa is education. But we're talking about education. We're not talking about the syllabus, the programs embedded.
I agree.
We're talking about, and we're not talking about digital literacy. We're talking about, God bless you, enlightenment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we need to sort of understand first. We don't even know our history. We don't even know the source. We don't even understand. Everything is being tweaked.
Yeah.
And then we cannot build the right framework on a wrong foundation.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to first get that right. Go back to education. And that's the reason why I said, Oladele, what you're doing on this platform, it's far-reaching. I mean, it's not just something small. If somebody can get it right today and start believing that the Yahoo boys whole thing is not a general thing around Africa, I mean, let's get the right knowledge. Do you understand? So I think that's going to be the first focus. Yeah, let's get it right. So, so if we can get it right, be enlightened around it, advocacy, let's start getting a very good number of people to be on our side. Once that is done, then I think we can start building, because now you can't make them understand because their salaries are not understanding it.
Yeah.
So let's change the concept of things. So I think that's going to be the foundation. So education, let's overhaul our education system.
Yeah.
If Burkina Faso is saying, we've been able to understand where everything comes from, it is not wrong for us to have a khaki uniform, a uniform for what is it called? For the soldier, for the army, for the defense. That it doesn't necessarily have to be a camouflage, or it necessarily has to be a khaki, a wool material. We can actually use something like this because this is the signature of Africa: lion, tiger, leopard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we are people of the wild, but
Yeah.
our behavior is not wild. I mean, let's get back into our cultural identity. Whatever you are building. When Uber came to Nigeria, sorry, when KFC came to Nigeria, they started selling rice. They started selling dodo, plantain.
Yeah. Yes.
Because when they brought the idea of shawarma to Nigeria, they started adding pepper to shawarma. That's who we are. That's who we are. And that's the reason why they are selling. So there's something unique about us. Let's get back to that. Even if we have to digitize it as a product, let's factor our cultural identity there. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Babajide.
Yeah. So I think you've summarized it very, very well. For me, I think what this platform is doing is quite vital to that education process, because I think Africans are still very uncomfortable with this dynamic of Africa versus the West. Everybody is Western educated. Everybody wants to send their children to the best, Western educated, schools without really understanding the dynamics. There's this dynamic between this. I mean, this term was only created. I'm sure some in the comments will probably help me here. FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. There's something going on there between the FBAs and the Africans, and it's all because there's a lack of understanding, which is why
all distractions.
Yes, all distractions. We're all the same people. We're all Africans at the end of the day, and until we can get to that point where we understand that, then we begin to move in unison to solve the African issue. Because to be honest, there's no issue. Because imagine that we're all in sync on one platform. What does it take to get people, just like Silicon Valley they build hedge funds, or I don't even want to call it hedge funds actually, because that's not the way we really operate. We do something that I call an African economic system. We build it, we come together, we donate, and that donation goes towards building and supporting our governments locally, because that's all they need. That is all they need, because once the government can create that, and that there's a term everybody likes to use, an enabled environment for people like us to thrive, or for businesses to thrive, my brother, everything else will fall in place. Okay, so like you said, a lot of us now, the awakening is happening. A lot of Africans, FBAs are coming online. They're saying it as it is. They're showing what's going on. They're building that relationship. They're putting the word out, and hopefully, it will get to the leadership in Africa. It will get there. And once it gets there and they decide to start to make those moves, and they're getting in touch with people like yourself, Ronald, or even within the healthcare space, they're getting in touch with the doctors and all. Yeah, then they'll start to create those platforms that would then start to push us forward, I think. Go on.
Yeah, Ronald, go on.
I have one question to Oladele and to Babajide. I mean,
Yes.
just because I'm just thinking rhetorically. Do you think
Yes.
it's possible for us to build in silos? How do I mean? Can each African country begin to scale on their own without the unity across Africa? Because I'm looking at what Rwanda is doing. I'm sure President Kagame is somewhat focusing on Rwanda more, unlike when he was focusing on African Union. Do you think that the African people have lost trust in having a one body of Africa? Just like what Maponga said the last time in Kenya when we were together. Well, I don't know if you remember, he said, he was jokingly saying, maybe he was serious, that when you go back to your home country,
He was always serious, bro.
Yeah, he was serious. Tell your president they are no longer president, because Africa was never a continent. It was one country that would just have diversity. Now, do you think, because we have the population together. Do you think, anyway, let me not delve further. Do you think it is possible for us to grow independently, more in a decentralized format, than having to have one thing constituted together?
Babajide, you want to go first?
Okay, let me go first.
Okay.
Okay. I like the fact that you brought up Rwanda, and I've not really looked at it from that perspective before, until now. And in that light, I would then want to put Rwanda and Burkina Faso side by side. And that tells me that yes, we can grow in a decentralized way, but we can then begin to leverage by looking at what those two countries, I mean, I'm not too sure what Mali and what's the other one, Niger, are doing in comparison to what Burkina Faso is doing, because Burkina Faso is more what's the word, is more public. They publicize what they do on a regular basis. Yeah.
Right.
But if we can take those two countries, so Rwanda and Burkina Faso, and maybe what's that other one, Botswana, we don't know, Botswana, then Malawi, I think they too are, even though I'm not sure what they're doing in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of policy, I know Botswana and Malawi are saying, you're not taking our resources out anymore. You have to process them, in-house before you take them out. I mean, that's decentralized.
And some part of West Africa too.
West Africa as well. So that's a decentralized approach. But like Oladele and I know, because we discuss this all the time, when the African Union was created, there were two factions. One faction said, we need to unite now. The other faction said, no, slowly, slowly. Look at where slowly, slowly has brought us in 2026. So I want to answer your question bluntly.
Right.
Even though these countries are acting in a decentralized fashion, I feel right now the way to consolidate Africa moving forward is to say enough is enough. We're coming together today and we're moving forward.
Despite our differences and
despite the differences, yes, let's start working on it. It will be remember though, the moving forward. So
what is going to be the accountability framework?
It's going to be decentralized. It's still going to be decentralized. Sorry, it's still going to be decentralized, but with one common purpose. It can never be, you're planning from the center. No, that's not the objective. The objective will be the African Union sitting on top, all the different countries as almost like regions of Nigeria, if I can, just so you can understand clearly. Yeah, there will be regions, but you now set policies that benefit Africa. I mean, think about it. You have your resources. Saying that you want to process your resources internally, look at that as a common policy for Africa. That's easy. You have a data policy. You have a data policy. Okay, we must now have 6 or 10 regional, Africa-focused data centers. Okay, that deliver straight to satellite for everybody. So, which means we're now going to come together as the African Union, speak to China or whoever can help us launch the satellites that something like Gaddafi wanted to do at the time. That we have our own satellites. We don't need to go to the West. Imagine if we had that. Then you now have 10 data centers just in Africa. That means the money doesn't leave Africa at all. It doesn't leave Africa at all. So it is doable with, centralized policy and decision making. Yeah, it's possible. And it's possible today.
All right. Thank you. I'm done. I think there are so many people that want on the on the comment list that want it to be open so that they can contribute. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna. This is me. In diversity, we have strength. I posted a thought on LinkedIn today, and this was this guy's name was I can't remember his name now, but he's an American economist, and he was quoting Thomas Sankara. Before Thomas Sankara died, he goes, "If I do it alone, I'm gonna get killed. But if we come together, they can't kill all of us."
Yeah.
And this is basically what Africa needs to do. Like Babajide said, yeah, we can build, but let's centralize it, because if Africa comes together, how they nitpick and basically you can see them how they're picking us apart. So in strength, we build capacity. In working in silos, that's why they have the unilateral and bilateral talks with different countries. They're pitching us against each other. Kwame Nkrumah knew this, and he can foresee what's going to happen, and that's basically what's happening now. So, guys, and one thing I look at African spirituality, guys. Even though we have the Akan, the Yorubas, the Zulus, we have a common thing. Our spirituality is the same in different languages. So it's the miseducation and the mindset that's basically getting us to think that we can't do it. And this is basically why Ibrahim Traore, Chiani, and Goita are together. It's 3 countries. Imagine there was 10 of them together. Do you know the capacity we have? They're 3 different countries. But if you had 10, that's a start. So it doesn't matter what we do. If you guys don't find a common goal to unite and build capacity, we're gonna. The thing is that I don't want to live it. I'm doing this for legacy, as a legacy for my children and grandchildren. I don't want to be here in the next 10 years and we're still having the same. Or my kids are having this same discussion. You know that my father's generation failed us. I'm nearly 60, and we failed so far because we've messed up, and I can say that categorically we have. But we need to get things right. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why I'm going to start thinking, how do we do things differently? Because if we don't get it right now, so what legacy are we passing on to our children and grandchildren? Anyway, guys, it's been about an hour and 41 minutes.
Oladele, sorry, I want to buttress what you've just said now to Ronald. You had a guest on your show, I think 2 weeks ago. I forgot it. Is it
Bababantu?
Bababantu, yeah.
Oh, Safa. Yeah.
And he mentioned,
okay.
I'll just mention this quickly. He mentioned that, do you know who Kwame Ture is, Ronald? Kwame Ture.
Stokely Carmichael.
Stokely Carmichael was one of the ones that was leading the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and co. in those days. But do you know what Mr. Safa alluded to recently? It's almost like those guys just did the work they did in vain, because in 2026, look at where we are. Are you understanding me? Look at where we are in 2026. So that's what Oladele is saying now. We need to do what we need to do now. We need to consolidate the gains. This is something I say a lot on this platform. If we don't consolidate the gains today, our children will be having this same podcast in 25 years' time. I'm telling you.
All right. That's correct. That's correct. I agree.
So I'll leave it there. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Guys. Okay, just on a parting shot, guys. Sorry we could not, because this conversation has gone on for quite a long. For those who participated in the comments, we appreciate your contributions. Thank you very much. Ronald, the final words from you today, please.
Well, my final words will be those things that I said earlier on. Let's look at Africa. Let's look at the world, because I believe that we were first humans before race. We were first humans before religion. We were first human before tribe. Something brought about humanity. So at the end of the day, regardless of color, we were first humans. And let's prioritize that in anything that we do. Humanity must prevail over religion, over tribe, over race, despite the fact that we're Africans even, right? And for us as African people, understand that we are being marginalized. We've been marginalized in so many ways. I think the way forward is not regret. The way forward is not revenge. I think the way forward is strategy. Let's understand that we deserve better life. Let's understand that, okay, this is our own home too. Either you like it or not, our forefathers paid some very, very big price. And if you're an American today, you're only being an American because some people paid the price, right? So please, let's put ourselves together and let's make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Babajide, final words from you, please.
Yes. I think, to move forward from here, I think there's a need for a collective action from every one of us. We're all one. Whether it's you want to call yourself FBA, you want to call yourself European, African, or whatever, we are all one, and we need to start to work together as a collective. I know there's a lot of individuals doing their respective work on different platforms. You know, kudos to them. They should continue doing that work. Someday it's going to coalesce. Trust me, it's happening, and it's going to coalesce. I mean, Ronald has alluded to that. This platform is a great platform. It's one of a kind. I'll be fair. I don't think there's anyone that is as blatant with its directions as this platform. You know, and I commend Oladele and Nduku for that. Then shifting to the African base, I think there's a whole process of decolonization of the mind that needs to happen for us to move forward. That's the main problem we have. The decolonization of the mind is very, very key. You know, we need to realize that we operate, whether you like it or not. I've done the numbers. Everybody can go and do the numbers. First, you can start with the population representation of your country. If you're in the US, if you're in Europe, if you're in France, look at your population and look at the representation in each big white-owned firm in that country. You find out that you're no more than 20% as an ethnic or whatever you want, as an African. Not more than 20%. You don't own anything. And if you don't own anything, how can you guarantee the continuity of your downlines, if I can call it that, your lineage? And now there's even an attack on that system in the US, where in the last couple of years, since Donald Trump came to power, 600,000 Black or African women have lost their jobs, and it's happening all over the Western world, right? So in order for us to consolidate, we need to band together, reach out to the African governments. The African governments need to take stock and say, look, we need to make this change. And in order for us to make this change, we're going to make that money available. Don't just say, oh, diasporans can come home, people in the US can come home, without providing that direction, without providing that platform that they can use as a landing pad in order to build those economies. I think for now, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. This topic is really, really huge. But for now, I think I'll leave it at that, Oladele. Hello? Yeah. You're on mute.
Excuse me, I muted myself, yeah. So guys, we have these conversations for us to critically think, okay? We as Africans are more than capable of doing all these things. But the first thing that we need to do, like Babajide said, is decolonize our minds. Our solutions doesn't have to be Eurocentric. We need to look at our African paradigm and create solutions that fit into what we need, not what the Urugu need. We don't have to copy what they're doing. This is what China did. China had to look inwards to come outwards. So why are we so, what's the word I'm looking for? Why are we so driven by proximity to whiteness when we can see blatantly that Africa is it's not working for us? Why are we not doing the work, building from the grassroots, from community, to build solutions that's going to work for Africa, that's actually going to empower Africa? You know what wealth, for me, wealth is when everybody can eat, drink, sleep, have shelter, and everybody has all these things and they don't have to worry about it. But look at us as Africans. All these things we lack, despite the fact that we have the wealth. The wealth we lack is lack of community, which we used to have, which was been taken away from us. Now we're all individualistic and driven by ego and money. And that money that you're chasing, in as much as you're surviving, but you're not going to live. Because not, like I said it from the beginning, not everybody is going to be successful in a capitalist system. All you're going to be chasing is crumbs. The best way forward is, guys, to build capacity as a community. In my Yoruba language, I said it before, when we come together, we go far. But when you're working in silo, all you're doing is you're going to continue to be the one-eyed king in the midst of the blind.
Yeah.
Whereas people around you are looking up to you, where you can actually build capacity among more people to push yourselves forward. This is what we Africans are not doing. So you're driving yourself toward an egocentric, individualistic way will never, ever free Africa, guys. Let's go back to our basics. Let's do what our ancestors did, where at a point in time, Africa never lacked. Africa was never poor. We had the abundance. The only reason we have lack is because we've adopted and they've imposed the European capitalist greed-driven system on us. And that's why we're struggling today. Until we as Africans start looking differently and start thinking differently and stop diagnosing or giving a prognosis that's Eurocentric to Africa, guys, we're going nowhere fast. Anyway, that's my conclusion today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. We've got another one coming up next Sunday. So yeah. So also I'll say, guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe to our channels. The Emerging ALKEBULAN, the Data Economist, Kumbukan is not here today. Also, I do write a lot. Go to my Substack. I write the things I'm saying. I write it. Thought-provoking. That's gonna make you think differently. Go to my Substack, the Emerging ALKEBULAN. I do write almost one article a day. I'm challenging all the narratives, all the miseducation that you guys have had. I'm challenging you to start thinking as an African, because as we're talking here, we all thinking like Europeans, and you can't see the possibility of being an African. So it's about time we start thinking like Africans. Anyway, once again, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.